morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those of you who are joining us from around the globe. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today entitled Convergence into the Enterprise Network. My name is Marc Schlesinger. I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships for the Americas at Orange Business Services, and I'll be leading our session today. Before we get started, let me set the scene by providing a little bit of perspective on what we're going to be reviewing today. As technologies continue to converge, user experience takes center stage, and business outcomes become the focus and rationale for transformation. We're being asked questions like, what strategies can an enterprise put in place now? As the internet has become the new corporate network, extracting intelligence, enabling predictable performance, and being able to respond and identify problems with speed and accuracy are becoming more important than ever. Data is more bountiful than ever before, and knowing how to leverage that asset is becoming a critical competitive driver for the future of the enterprise. Our session today is part of an Orange webinar series called Business Resilience in All Time. Throughout this series, our intention is to give you information and thought leadership that will support global enterprises through the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. We have over 20 webinars planned in this series that fall into three basic categories. Today, I will be presenting part of the Leading with Partner series, where I will be talking to interviewing our technology partners and leaders and discussing potential emerging trends that are becoming more and more visible on a regular basis. There are two additional segments to our series that incorporate resources from within the group, specifically the Next Normal, which is brought to us by our colleagues at Orange Silicon Valley, who are presenting business impacts affecting business leaders in our digital and COVID world across various enterprises and industries, as well as our Enterprise Solutions series, which is brought to me by my colleagues at Orange Business Services. Today's topic, again, is part of our Leading with Partner series, and joining me will be Prashanth Shenoy, Vice President of Marketing and Enterprise Networks, IoT and Developer Platform at Cisco. Prashanth has some great ideas to share with us on the emerging trends occurring within the enterprise. Prashanth, thank you for joining us today. I'd also like
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Yeah, of course. I will also be joined by my colleague, Samir Al-Rashidi, who leads pre-sales solutions here at Orange Business Services for the Americas. Samir is going to help us out with the Q&A throughout the session. Some quick housekeeping notes. You can either enter your questions with your first name automatically appearing for all to see on the right-hand side of your screen by using the chat area, or if you prefer more private space, you can anonymously submit questions using the questions area on the right side as well. Only Samir, Prashanth, and I will be able to see the questions in the questions area. Please take advantage of the opportunity to do so. So let's go ahead and get started. The topics that we'll be talking about today that I have shared with Prashanth in advance have to do with four specific categories. The first one being helping organizations build business resiliency and what they need to be thinking about as they deal with some of the trends that are happening as a result of COVID-19. The second thing we'll be talking about today is the role of intent-based networking and what the future looks like in terms of how that technology could be applied, as well as the impact of AI and ML on what's going on in the enterprise. And of course, one of the most important topics of the day is what's going on with security within SDWAN. Some quick background on Prashanth, if I may. I've had the pleasure of speaking with Prashanth on several times previously. He is a great storyteller. He's a big proponent of innovation and always has some exciting and informative details to share with us, and I'm sure you're going to find that to be the case today. Prashanth, again, it's great to have you. So let's just jump right in. Let's talk about how organizations are helping businesses become, like organizations like ourselves, becoming more helpful in helping enterprises build resiliency into their enterprise. We're seeing unprecedented times in this present day and age. Resiliency has taken on a new meaning in the enterprise from what our customers have been telling us, changing their thinking from focusing on a specific number of locations to being forced to support thousands of endpoints as working from home exponentially grew in a very short period of time. Now we're seeing businesses start to point their attention to returning to work transformations. Question is, what will that look like? What are some of the new trends that Cisco is seeing as this becomes the new normal way of doing business? Prashanth, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And thank you again for the partnership. And hello, everyone. Morning, afternoon, and evening from wherever you are logging in. It's been an interesting last few months for all of us, I'm sure. I remember very clearly sometime early in March when we were having an offsite to plan our quarterly planning, and we get a phone call saying that, hey, Cisco is going to put shelter in place and we're all going to be working from home. So I was reflecting on how Cisco IT really made that change happen within 24 hours, literally. And that is the times that we live in, right? So organizations now, and especially IT, are in the forefront of making that change happen and making businesses not only agile in this new time, but also highly resilient. So you're seeing that shift from being reactive when the pandemic hit to responding to the best possible way to keep employees safe and secure and to do business continuity, to now recovering from that phase to then reinventing the business model. And you can see that the shift has made an increased focus for CFOs and CIOs to shift designing from more efficiency to designing for resiliency, right? Like when these kind of things happen, how can businesses be highly resilient and plan as much as they do for being efficient? And you can see that the effect of this is going to be more than just 12 months to 24 months. For some CIOs and CEOs, they are saying that it's going to last for at least 2 to 5 years, right? So, and that's the level of planning that needs to happen. And you can see it's going to be two different things if you look at it from an enterprise perspective. On one hand, it's all about the hybrid work model, right? How do we now support highly productive, highly engaging, highly collaborative workforce, no matter where they work from, right? Like Mark and I and all of us these days are working from home. And how does that look where you can work from home or you can work from office? So that's going to be the number one thing. And the second part is you're seeing a lot more transition from a CapEx infrastructure IT model to more of an OpEx model because of stringent infrastructure spending, right? So now you can see that increase the cloud IT spending. So how do I provide that consistent application experience no matter where my application reside and no matter where the users reside? So that's the world that we're going to live in, right? Hyper distributed users, hyper distributed applications, and the need for anytime, anywhere access to this in a consistent, secure manner. So at Cisco, we are heavily focused on building business resiliency solution, working together with our partners, right? And we see that in two places, right? One is the secure remote workforce. How do we support this work from home while we provide safe, secure access, while providing that consistent application experience so that people don't necessarily feel they're working from home, they feel like they are in an office environment. So you can see that providing flexible remote access and providing secure remote collaboration are going to be foundational for every enterprise organizations. And then there are going to be additional capabilities like for contact center environments. How do I provide remote contact center? How do I bring that desktop and have a virtual desktop infrastructure, right? So how do I plan for optimized application experience for all this work from home, where, as Mark mentioned, internet becomes your backbone for your business, right? So these are the things that you need to think about when you think secure remote workforce. And then a lot of companies, including Cisco, are trying to safely get our employees to work back in the office. And for knowledge workers like us, it's okay to work from home and work from office in a hybrid work model. But think about plant operations, remote operations, utilities. You cannot just sit and work from home, right? It's highly critical to be there at the place of work. How do we make that safe and secure? And how do we create a trusted, safe workplace environment becomes highly crucial. So for OT technologists, having remote operations so that even if they're working from home, they can easily access their plant assembly line and see if everything is working as planned becomes highly crucial. And for corporate space enterprise, it is going to be more and more crucial to have more location-based information to do social density insights, right? Like, hey, is the conference room having the right number of people so that it's not at risk? Is the building having the right number of people so we can be still socially distancing? So things like proximity reporting, critical asset tracking, all of this become highly, highly crucial. So these are the kind of solutions that Cisco is working to help customers build highly business resilient solutions.
Thanks, Prashanth. I think it's particularly interesting, your comments around designing for efficiency versus designing for resilience. Definitely a big shift from a market perspective from what we're seeing as well. So I appreciate the perspective there. Looks like we do have a question from the audience at this moment as we close out the first topic. We've got a question from Lisa in particular, who has asked a question about whether or not you're seeing any trending that is moving SD-WAN into the home versus, or rather due to the high amount of work from home adoption that's been going on within the market.
Yeah, and I'll touch a bit more upon that when we discuss the SD-WAN section, Mark. But since Lisa asked, let me quickly say, absolutely. As we talked about, internet is the backbone now, right? So, and work from home means that consider your work as one of the remote branch office with no IT, if you will, right? Or lean IT for those of us who can set up a Wi-Fi access point or something, right? So, and this reason, everybody wants direct internet access. Everybody wants access to the SaaS application, no matter where they are. So SD-WAN fundamentally plays a critical role to say, how do I provide a consistent, secure application experience, no matter where the users are, no matter where the applications are? So that becomes your glue between your remote workers and your remote applications. So you'll see an emergence in a lot of organizations, either through managed service providers or through channel partners who work to deploy these robust SD-WAN solution for this hyper distributed workforce environment.
Yep. Great, thank you, Prashanth. So moving on to our second topic, specifically, we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about intent-based networking. When I spoke with you recently, Prashanth, you'd shared some interesting insights with me about the future role of IBN, how analytics and predictability are becoming more and more important, and of course, being able to automate a resolution after interpreting all of this data that's being captured is super important to the future, I think, of the enterprise and certainly the network. So does intent-based networking still have a role to play in the enterprise? And what do you think about timing in terms of adoption for customers like the ones we presently serve at Orange Business Services?
Yep, well, I think that's a great question, Mark. I think we need to look at the future. We need to look back at the past. And it's very important to say now, this digital transformation to a certain extent has been a buzzword now used for 15 more years, right? But you can see in a very simple term, every company right now is a technology company, right? So whether you're in manufacturing, hospitality, healthcare, retail, education, you are using technology to enable, differentiate, and create new business models, new services for your workforce, to your consumers, to your end users, right? And the network is lit, and the technology transitions happening here are around the world of mobile around the world of IoT, around the world of cloud and security and network. And all of these are very network-centric technologies, right? If you will. There's not going to be a world of mobile without the network, a world of cloud without the network, or a world of security without getting connected, right? So it is very crucial to see as this world has digitally transformed, the role of the network also has transformed from what it was in the 80s and 90s, which was a connectivity-driven network, right? The world was unconnected. I remember when I was back in India and we had to call people here in the US, we used to do a trunk call, right? Like call an operator, was a switchboard connector and put a circuit. Like we take this for granted, calling now on high definition video conferencing, that this should automatically work. But the network behind the scenes has converged this voice video data into a single network to drive that transition, right? So that connectivity driven network now in this world of digital transformation is a lot more strategic than ever before because of the transitions that we talked in the last section, which is hyper connected and hyper distributed users and application because of the mobile first and cloud first world makes for the transformation of the network even more important, where from an operation standpoint, things need to move from being reactive to more proactive and predictive, right? So because the scale at which the changes are happening, it's humanly impossible to manage operations. So you need to put machine learning and AI technology and heavy automation technology to drive a very proactive, highly efficient IT operation. So that's one of the key ways in which intent-based networking will help, and I'll give a bit more detail. You also need to move from a place where things were wired only, right? We still remember Ethernet, dongles and cables, right, on our laptops. Right now, I don't have an Ethernet cable, right? Like everything is wireless. And now in this world, because of 5G and Wi-Fi 6, it's going to be ubiquitous, right? Whether you're cellular or Wi-Fi. So how do we play that role becomes highly, highly crucial. And then from a security perspective, the perimeter-based security no longer works. We are in a zero trust model where you always have to verify and never trust anything and anyone on the network, right? So how do you build this zero trust self-defending model of the network becomes very crucial. And this is the genesis of intent-based networking. It's simply put, the network should focus on what is the intent of your business and figure out how to achieve that intent in a very automated machine learning and AI-driven manner. And there are different components of that. You can consider IBN to be an evolution of SDN, if you will, where SDN was heavier on automation to help you simplify your day-to-day operations. Where IBN kicks it into the next level is to have a lot of intelligence from the data that we get from the network, from the devices, from the applications, and the threats that we see, and providing that assurance and critical predictive insights back to IT, back to the business to say your intent is met or not, and here's how to fix that, and here's how to proactively address that even before things go wrong. And that's that closed loop feedback that truly makes IT agile as well as resilient to build that business outcome enabler networking, right? So that's the whole concept of IBN. And when you look at that, we truly need to think about this from user to the applications, right? So every domain of the network, whether it's the operational domains, the OTs, the plant and assembly lines and distribution centers that we talked about, to the corporate space access environment, to the wide area network, to the data center, to the multi-cloud, each one of these domains need to have this automation and insights driven way of operating. And then we need to stitch these things together to work as a single integrated system. And that's what Cisco has been doing over the last several years to build this end-to-end network infrastructure with security on top of it to drive that business outcome and outcome-based networking solution.
No, I can appreciate the single pane of glass that needs to be created here so you can manage all the complexity across what I consider to be multiple architectures, multiple domains, and how that fits into the narrative around IBN. So that's great. Thank you, Prashanth. Just see if we had any additional questions on this particular topic relating to intent-based networking. I did want to go back. Oh, we do have another question. Actually, this may have been a question to our previous topic, but I think it's relevant here because of what we're talking about in terms of industry in general. But one of the questions from Sean was related to the language that was used around what does industrial workforce continuity actually entail. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Yeah, so I'm putting it in very simplistic terms here, right? It's a lot more complicated and complex than this, right? So the industrial environment are a very unique and very challenging environment, right? Like think about assembly lines or manufacturing things happen. So it is highly crucial that you always make sure that the workers are safe and the businesses are moving in the right direction. There's the continuity and resiliency of those business. So we need to think both from like, what does it mean from a human element aspect? Like how are workers and the employees and the workforce safe and secure in this environment that has a lot of machines and a lot of security challenges that we need to address, like in utilities as an example, right? So that's one aspect. And then how do you make those infrastructure, whether those are assembly lines, whether they are smart grid utilities, work in a highly resilient fashion? So we need to think continuity and resiliency from both sides, right? So, and that's very different from a corporate space environment, like knowledge worker environment where me and you work, right? A lot of things are done video conferencing, whiteboarding, etc. We are not directly operating machinery or utilities, etc. We are not handling those kind of things. So the challenges, the use cases, the outcomes that we need to focus on are different compared to a corporate space campus environment. So that's what I mean by that industrial workforce continuity, where you want to make sure that the workers and the workforce can safely and securely work in these environment, whether it's social distancing thing, whether it's predictive maintenance kind of capability, whether it's security and trust-based systems need to be very crucial in these environments.
That makes sense. You'd also mentioned all the things that Cisco is currently working on around proximity management, for example, and I think that kind of falls into this category as well, right?
Yeah.
Where you've got all these new problems that have come up, and we have to figure out how to optimize them to be, efficient as well as resilient in preparation for the next what if that may come down the road.
Yeah,
so
and a lot of companies are already doing that. We can see that even Cisco IT right now, right? Like if I had to go to the office, I need to do all the temperature checks and everything else, and then download a proximity reporting application, which helps understand the workplace resource, the facility managers, as well as the IT to say, hey, is the building socially distanced and safe, right? Like how are we transitioning in the office space? Is the conference utilities in the right place? And we have digital signage that tells you, hey, this is the number of employees right now, and it's below the 80% threshold, right? All of this, that's why data is king, as you were mentioning, Mark, at the very beginning, that having more and more intelligence coming from the infrastructure to help provide a safe, secure, collaborative environment in this new normal becomes highly critical.
Great. So let's go ahead and progress to topic number 3 and talk a little bit about the greatest impact around what AI and machine learning can do for the enterprise. What I can share with you, Prashanth, is that at OBS, we have seen AI and ML integration accelerating even faster than it was prior to all things COVID. And as a result, we've recently finished the integration of business and decisions into Orange Business Services, bringing their expertise in business intelligence and data science into the fold. What we believe that is going to do is help enable our customers with some of the complexity around this data is king concept that you just mentioned, because we're already being asked to do things around capturing network telemetry and sensor data and deliver insights from all that convergence of information back to our customers so they can make decisions. So with all that in mind, where does Cisco see AI and ML fitting into the enterprise post-COVID?
Yeah, this is a very long, this itself can be a webinar on its own, Mark, as you can imagine. And it's one of the highly interesting areas. As with everything, mobile, cloud, you need to take AI ML with a grain of salt, and there's a lot of hype around this. So we need to be very crisp and clear in terms of very specific use cases that AI and ML can solve in the world of networking, in the world of security, in the world of cloud, right? But it's interesting. The concept of AI ML is important in a very simple manner. If you remember the industrial revolution, right, when it happened, was truly to augment the human physical capability, right? The steam engines, the cars, the manufacturing, etc. Like now, you couldn't humanly move at that fast a pace from point A to point B. Enter steam engines, transportation, and you can do that, right? So it was to augment our physical capability. I see the digital revolution with AI and ML to augment our mental capabilities, right? So there's truly a lot of data that we just discussed that humans are a huge team of humans cannot necessarily process and drive insights. And that's why machines with machine learning capabilities now can augment that human mental capabilities. And that results in a lot of very interesting use cases where businesses can embrace these kind of AI, ML technology and make it a priority, but in very specific areas. I feel security is going to be one of those very critical areas, right? It's always a cat and mouse game in the world of cybersecurity, right? There are white hats, or we have those terms where you're constantly trying to figure out how to break into the system and steal data. And ransomware is one of the key things. There's a lot of intelligence now built into the data without looking into the data that we can use machine learning techniques, analyze traffic patterns, and give a level of confidence that this looks like a threat. And this is how IT and the security teams need to address that. So security, I feel, is one of the primary areas where AI and ML techniques can be used to identify issues and threats even before they happen predictively and prevent them from happening in the first place. So technologies like encrypted traffic analytics that Cisco came out 3 to 4 years back is a great example where this holy grail of providing security while maintaining privacy is something that every CISO wants to provide. And with ETA, without unencrypting the data and looking into the data, you can analyze machine traffic patterns, like who is sending the data to what is the byte size distribution, what is the TLS payload, all sorts of things, the metadata, and say with a healthy level of confidence that this is a threat. And here's how to quarantine that user, the device, or that application, right? So that's one of the key areas I feel. And then there are areas around IoT and applications that are also going to be very crucial to apply machine learning and AI. If I bring it back to our intent-based networking conversation and where we see AI ML applying in these three areas, one is the same world in consumer, right? We are all used to talking to our machines. We don't think that way, right? So, hey, Alexa, Google, Siri, all of that, right? So the natural language processing, imagine when you can talk to you're in a NOC or a SOC and you can talk to your network, right? Like, hey, network, tell me how the applications are behaving. It's a very simple network language processing. to translate the what to the how aspect that we see this happening, right? It makes it easier to operate and look at the network. That's one example. From an automation standpoint, IoT is one main area, right? So many different types of Internet of Things devices or IoT coming in, and they're very vertical specific, right? Like in healthcare, an insulin pump, an MRI machine, to like a security surveillance camera, to a badging system, to an HVAC, to a lighting system. Every IoT device is different. The trust profile is different. They act and behave differently. So how can I use machine learning and AI technologies to intelligently identify these devices, group them into certain categories, and then apply the right trust profile and segmentation of your network to help prevent lateral threats is another area of AI ML technology that we've used. How do I intelligently detect policies that are already applied in your systems and say, are these policies working or not? Or what is the recommended policy based on dynamic changes in traffic pattern is another area, right? So those are some of the things. And then at the end, how can I use AI ML to predict things that are going to happen, right? So, and there are things in the environment where you can say, hey, I'm seeing this issue in one part of the infrastructure, but based on the traffic pattern in the other part of the infrastructure, this issue will occur or may occur in that other part, whether it's a conference building, whether it's a remote office, or whether it's a hospital environment. So let me proactively tell IT that this is going to happen, and here's how to fix it. That is going to be a huge boon in making IT operations not only faster, but also smarter by providing machine learning and AI. And these are some of the use cases and examples where I feel AI ML is going to be more and more common. So we have to think from a very specific use case perspective rather than broad brushing the concept of AI ML to solve world hunger, if you will. Right?
I completely understand. Just kind of checking some questions from the audience related to this topic, and it doesn't surprise me. We always get big questions from audience members, and I'm not sure if this is something you can share a perspective on or not. But really looking forward, really looking towards the future here. What's beyond artificial intelligence? What's beyond machine learning? Is there something that is already in the works that is worth talking about or considering as far as the enterprise is concerned?
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me get my crystal ball.
Crystal ball.
It was there somewhere here. So I think I lost it.
Mhm.
Now, I think, frankly, I think I'll be foolish to sit here and say this is how the world is going to look in 2025. Nobody knows, frankly. But we can make some calculated assumptions based on what we've seen in the past, what we're seeing in the present, and say this may be one of the things. And we look at some of the technology trends that are very early in the adoption cycle. So quantum computing is one such thing, right? So, and you can see, as we said, like cloud made data computing really possible, faster, efficient, etc. Right? So, and now quantum computing is going to take it to a whole new level because the amount of data that is generated right now, because of the connectivity and the access to everything and anything, is humongous. So the computers that we build today are incapable of computing this humongous amount of data and generating insights or learnings from that. So the concept of quantum computing, where you're not manipulating individual bits, but you're manipulating this quantum bits or qubits, becomes highly, highly crucial. And that has a lot of implication for everything from financial services, high frequency trading, to healthcare, to obviously the world of regular enterprises, if you will, right? So, and to apply it for security, it's a huge area. So that's where I feel concept of AI ML plus quantum computing will help generate new use cases, emerging industries, and emerging applications to solve some of the world's toughest challenge in healthcare, in finance, in education, etc. I feel.
I appreciate you looking into the magic ball for us,
Yeah.
Prashanth. That's a great perspective. We did have another question. I'm not sure if you can see yourself there, Prashanth, from Raghu, who asked a question
Mhm.
about privacy and AI bias.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can maybe comment on that for us as well.
Yeah. I think this is a uh, very well, and I'm not a expert in cognitive bias and AI bias in the world, but there's a lot of research being done right now, right? Because the the machines and these algorithms are built by people, and we all as humans have unconscious bias,
Yeah.
right? So, and we put that into the systems. Um, so, and we don't realize that ourselves, but when the systems generate these insights, they are biased towards a particular thing, right? And we've seen that happen in things like facial recognitions to identity and all of that stuff. So it becomes highly crucial to take these, to design these systems in a way that is, and by people that are having diversity of thought, diversity of experiences to build those systems. And this is not a technology issue. This is a cultural issue. This is an organizational issue. This is a societal issue that we as a community need to work together, I would say. And you can see a lot of governments, that's one aspect on the AI bias system, right? So, and the notion of privacy, you can see, right, like the European Union coming up with GDPR, and there's so much of focus right now on maintaining privacy while being secure, and it's always going to be a balance, right? So where do we draw the line, and what is the role of individual organizations that are responsible for building these platforms, like us, as well as the users of these platforms? What is the responsibility in organization is a very interesting concept that we need to be really thinking through before we build this system. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that perspective. Let's get to our last topic of the day, if we can. And this is a topic that a lot of people have been asking a lot about. It's a topic that we've been talking to Cisco about in great detail. As you know, we're a leader in global SD-WAN solutions, specifically from Cisco. In fact, we've sold over $1.2 billion worth of SD-WAN solutions to date, and have more than 12,000 SD-WAN sites globally up and running. I'm also proud, and you can't blame me for wanting to say this, that we were Cisco's Enterprise Partner of the Year for this exact reason, for what we've done from an SD-WAN solution perspective in the global enterprise. And so, we've seen in talking to some of the multinational corporations that we serve, security is always the first question that comes up when we start talking about SD-WAN and how it integrates into the broader picture. So can you tell us about what you're doing now, and what can we expect from Cisco in terms of security integration into the new platforms?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And it says that security always comes to mind. That wasn't the case, right? Like 3 to 4 years back. It's amazing because we've been in the journey of SD-WAN for the last several years right now. When SD-WAN was created, the genesis, it was more of a hybrid WAN, right? Like, because like, hey, people were thinking, hey, I have my data center, but I also have some internet traffic, but I'm spending a lot of effort, time, and wasting my bandwidth sending all of my traffic over expensive MPLS circuits to my data center while I don't need to. Is there a way that I can effectively utilize all of my transport links and provide a cost-efficient way and a bandwidth-efficient way to provide that service back to branch offices and remote offices, right? So it was all about cost efficiency, the first world of SD-WAN, right? And that's what we did. And then as applications started going more and more multi-cloud, not just one cloud, but multiple clouds, IT were like, hey, now I want consistent application experience no matter where my applications reside, right? So you could see that that became very, very crucial to the world of SD-WAN. And now we are in a phase that, hey, my applications are everywhere, my users are everywhere. I want to make sure that the users can directly access anything that they want. So how do I provide a safe, secure way of connecting to the world of multi-cloud and connecting to the world of SaaS applications? And that's the world that we are living in. And that's why you see security being top of mind. And you could see that even the market, it used to be all networking players in the first phase, and then WAN optimization players got in on the second phase, and now security players are getting in the third phase. And for us in Cisco, we've always been a networking and security company over the last decade or more, right? So we've thought through this from the very beginning and worked with partners like OBS to make sure that we can deploy it in a very simple, effective manner while providing that flexibility of choice and control to our customers, right? Because there is no one size fits all when it comes to security. There are cases where you need a quote unquote thick branch for highly mission critical applications where latency, jitter are highly, highly crucial. And because of policy and compliance issues, you cannot send everything to the cloud for security purposes. You need a thick branch where you integrate all of your security services into one single system. And you do that, right? Both SD-WAN and security in one system. And that's truly an SD branch model. So that's one aspect of security. The other aspect of security is around like when you have a lot of remote offices and you don't want to put security in each of these offices and don't put security in the DMZ, how can you have a cloud native cloud security model where you can serve all of those branches in a scalable fashion? So that's the second model. And then there are other models where you put this in co-location facilities, right? Where you put virtual instances closest to your SaaS application or your public cloud environment, and you do all your security capabilities there. So Cisco and we're working with us together, we can provide any of these models for our customers, depending on what their use cases are and what outcome they want to achieve. But we do realize that the world of cloud, harnessing the power of the cloud and having a cloud for security model is extremely crucial for quite a few customers. And that's where bringing the world of best-in-class cloud scale secure SD-WAN that we have with our cloud native security solution, which is our umbrella platform, together and providing an easy way of deploying, managing, and scaling this SD-WAN security, what Gartner terms SASE, the Secure Access Services Edge, becomes extremely crucial. And that's what Cisco has been working towards over the last several years too, where we still provide that flexibility and choice, but we make it easy to deploy and manage, whether you want a thick branch SD branch model, thin branch cloud security model, or a colo model. You can deploy the services wherever you want, but get it managed in a simple, elegant manner. So that's where I see the world of secure SD-WAN or SASE evolving, is to provide right security at the right place, but definitely having a focus on how do we build a cloud native security model and integrate SD-WAN as part of that.
That's great. Thanks for that insight, Prashanth. Appreciate it. We're coming up on the end of our time here today. So what I thought I would do is, first of all, thank you once again, Prashanth, for sharing all these important perspectives. We're truly watching some unbelievable transformations happen at an accelerated rate, and have a lot of challenges that we've got to start to think through and negotiate. And I see Cisco certainly helping us achieve those objectives for our customers. Some key takeaways from today that I took, right, is the shift from business continuity to business resiliency. There seems to be a lot of CFOs out there that are very interested in making sure that stays top of mind mind. There's a lot of organizations that are facing challenges with their journey to the next normal. And instead of worrying about this concept of post-COVID and what to do with COVID, a lot of discussion now is emanating from what do we do and how do we get back to the office, what the new way of working, to return is going to look like and be. And then, of course, we talked a lot about AI and ML. It's an area that I'm particularly excited about. I think it's a unique, emerging technology that a lot of people are starting to really try to grapple with and apply to solving some complex problems that are out there. And it's already starting to make itself visible in a lot of the things that Cisco's doing, a lot of the things that we see our enterprise customers doing as well. And then, of course, security is everywhere. I don't think we have to belabor that point. It's something that has not certainly slowed down in being of interest and an important part of all things SD-WAN and to be IBN as well. So moving on to kind of close things out today, if I could. I want to remind everybody that there is an opportunity to join us for some additional of our webinar series called Business Resilience in All Time. Kathy is going to go ahead and post the link for the entire series directly into the chat window now. Some of the dates have already passed, and we have some still in front of us, but the link will allow you to get access to a lot of the replays. So please feel free to visit those sites and register for the upcoming events. We're also working on some new webinar discussions with our friends at Cisco, specifically what's new with WebEx, talking about all the new features that have been launched in that platform and how it's impacting the enterprise, as well as topics including the future around IoT. So we're excited to continue to be moving these stories forward with Cisco because there's a lot happening and a lot to talk about. In closing, again, Prashanth, I really enjoy spending time with you. So thanks again for making yourself available to us. We are definitely grateful to have had you with us today. Please, if anybody has any questions from an audience perspective, don't hesitate to reach out to the email addresses that we've provided here. We're more than happy to talk about these topics and many others if you'd like. And then I remind everyone to stay safe, be well, and please remember, today changes with orange. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.